legislative body of this town will be voting on 24 articles today, determining how our tax dollars are spent and some of the rules we live by. In a democracy, every vote you cast is important. Here at town meeting, your voice and your vote affect the issues that are closest to all of our everyday lives. In consideration of those who are listening, can everybody please be quiet? Thank you. I'd like to introduce you to our new town manager, Kristen Last, who started with us just a few weeks ago. I know I speak for everyone in welcoming her to our community. I'd also like to welcome our new Assistant DPW Director, Kyle Fox. And thank you to the town staff who ensure that at each meeting we're comfortable and convenient, and to WA for hosting this meeting, including the students who are here assisting. I'd like to give a special thanks to WestfordCAT. In an age where local news coverage has disappeared from many parts of the state and the country, we are immensely grateful to have CAT's continuous and comprehensive coverage of everything Westford. A few informational items. The restrooms are outside the rear entrance where you came in and across the hall. Hearing assistance headsets are available at the teller's desk for anyone who wants them. The Say Cheese food truck will be here when we break for lunch, so you don't have to leave the grounds to eat. Children are welcome and may sit with their parents in the audience as long as they don't disturb the proceedings. In addition, there's alternative seating across the hall for anyone who needs extra space, where you'll be able to use your clickers to vote, but you'll have to return to this room to ask a question or address the meeting or to participate in a voice vote. Meeting mentors are in the audience near the flags. Can I have the meeting mentors stand, please? These folks are available to answer any procedural questions you may have during the meeting. If you don't want to approach the microphone, you can just ask them. The town meeting speaker clock is here to my left at the front and will note when a speaker has held the microphone for more than 2 minutes. Without discouraging anyone from speaking or making their points, this clock will let you know how long you've been at the microphone. Generally, people do not speak for more than 2 minutes. When you do stand up to speak, please follow the instructions on the microphone, state your name and address, keep your comments brief and to the point, do not repeat what others have already said, and if you've previously spoken on an issue, let others who have not speak first. When you checked in, you were given a handheld clicker. Depending on what type of vote is required or what is most efficient, we'll sometimes take voice votes and sometimes vote using the clickers. So please keep both the clickers and your voice handy. If you don't have a clicker, then please go to the teller's table in the back to get one. It means you haven't been checked in. Do not leave the Westford Academy Gymnasium with your clicker. You can hold on to your clickers as long as you're in the room, but if you leave this room, you must return your clicker to the teller's table and get a new one when you come back. There'll be somebody at the door who'll collect the clicker from you, and you can get a new one from the tellers when you come back. Most importantly, do not forget to turn your clicker in at the boxes at the end of the day. Please don't leave with your clicker in your pocket because they'll dock my pay. There are 4 microphones by which any voter can address the meeting after being recognized by the moderator. You can use whichever mic is closest to you. Unless given special permission by the meeting, non-voters may not address the meeting and may not vote. Except for accompanied children or town employees and consultants, non-voters should remain in the non-voter bleachers section in the back to my right to avoid any confusion during discussion and votes. We will be working from this pink flamingo town meeting booklet. The motions booklet has the wording of the motions we'll be discussing and the recommendations of the relevant town boards. If you don't have a pink flamingo motions booklet, you can get one now at the table in the rear, along with other informational materials. If you'd like to follow online, you can go to westfordma.gov/ATM 2023. There are 2 housekeeping motions we need to take care of before we begin. First, as indicated previously, non-voters may not address the meeting without your permission. I will ask now that town meeting allows certain non-voters to address the meeting, and these are town employees, town council, and town hired consultants who will be participating in our discussion by virtue of their positions. May I have a motion to allow these individuals to address the meeting? Second, please. This vote requires a 2/3 majority. Let's see if we can do it by voice vote first. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. It's unanimous. Secondly, your pink flamingo motions booklet has the full text of the motions we'll be voting on. Rather than requiring the moderator to read every word verbatim, may I have a motion accepting the wording as it is printed in the motions booklet? Is there a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Finally, with due respect for the value of the time of every person attending here today, I nevertheless want to emphasize that every question is welcome. Feel free to ask about the facts of any article or the particulars of any process we're following. If you have a question about something, it's likely somebody else in the room has that same question as well. We live in a democracy, but it doesn't work unless everyone participates. Democracy works best when the greatest number of people participate. I hope you enjoy your experience here today and leave feeling you've accomplished something. Before moving to the consent agenda, I'd like to recognize Madonna McKenzie of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Pursuant to a referral passed at town meeting in October of 2020, this committee was charged with making recommendations regarding the establishment of Indigenous Peoples Day in Westford, and Madonna's here to give us a report on their progress. Thank you, Madonna.
Madam Moderator. My name is Madonna McKenzie, and I live at 28 Cold Spring Road. I'm here today representing the Westford's DEI Committee, appointed by the Westford Select Board to serve as an advisory committee to the town generally, and to advise the school committee and the Select Board on matters related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. In the fall of 2020, as the moderator stated, the question of Indigenous Peoples Day was addressed at town meeting. The resulting discussion ended with the town meeting asking the DEI committee to research the Indigenous Peoples Day and make a recommendation to the Select Board. The charge of the committee is in part to identify needs around fostering acceptance, valuing diversity, and to discourage prejudice and discrimination against any person, group, or any other state protected by law on account of race, creed, color, income, national origin, ancestry, religion, gender, sexual orientation, veteran status, age, and disability. The DEI committee took the charge of the 2020 Fall Town meeting seriously and with open minds. We did not make this recommendation to the Select Board for light or transient reasons. We made the recommendation and urge your support, particularly because of our increasing awareness and understanding of the important and growing recognition that Indigenous people have suffered for centuries in this country. We need to understand their history and embrace their culture as an important step toward the overall recognition of the intolerance the state and country have engaged in. Like other cities and towns in the Commonwealth, Westford sits on land once occupied by Indigenous people. In our case, the ancestral lands of the Nipmuc people. The committee began a thorough and open process, including connecting with individuals and groups representing Indigenous populations, We conducted an online survey in the fall of 2021 and a virtual community listening session in the summer of 2022. The results of each were mixed, with respondents and participants expressing support for and opposition to Indigenous Peoples Day, and others suggesting that Indigenous Peoples Day and Columbus Day be celebrated separately. We engaged in multiple discussions at our DEI committee meetings, researched Indigenous Peoples Day proposals in other Massachusetts cities and towns, reviewed the legislation offered by Massachusetts State House to establish an Indigenous Peoples Day statewide, presented findings and recommendations to the Select Board, which acted to provide the voters with the opportunity to consider this very important question, developed ballot question language for Select Board approval in August of 2020. On March 13th of this year, the Westford School Committee voted to express its support for the Indigenous Peoples Day ballot question in the form of a resolution, which is included in our handout. And please, if you do not pick one up on your way in, pick one up at lunch or on your way out. Thank you. On March 14th of the year, the Select Board approved the language to appear on the ballot question as question 3. Shall the Westford Select Board declare the second Monday in October as Indigenous Peoples Day, superseding local references to Columbus Day, and recommend that it be observed by the people of Westford with appropriate exercises in the schools and otherwise, to acknowledge the history of genocide and discrimination against Indigenous peoples, and to recognize and celebrate the thriving culture and continued resistance and resilience of Indigenous people and their tribal nations. We are grateful to the Select Board for setting out a public structure for consideration of this question, and to the school committee for its support of the ballot question. We also want you to know and to understand that establishing Indigenous Peoples Day in Westford, superseding Columbus Day, does not ignore the history of the age of exploration. In fact, it does the opposite by inspiring a deeper and more critical examination of the age of exploration in which Columbus was just one participant. It is the hope of the DEI committee and the school committee that the voters of Westford approve the Indigenous Peoples Day ballot question on May 2nd and join over 20 other Massachusetts cities and towns and over 130 across the country in doing so. A town-wide vote in favor of Indigenous Peoples Day would also anticipate the successful passage of pending state legislation to do the same, and firmly establish Westford as a peaceable community that embraces diversity, abhors intolerance, celebrates difference, and fosters belonging. Please cast your vote on May 2nd for Indigenous Peoples Day in Westford. And thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Madonna, and to all the members of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for your work on this topic.
Madam Moderator?
We're not going to have any discussion of this, Dennis. It's just a report.
All right.
And now please turn to page 3 of your motions booklet so we can begin. We'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda proposed consists of Articles 1, 9, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16, 21, and 22. And those numbers are at the top of your first page. These are articles that repeat year after year or that are routine and non-controversial in nature. Therefore, as a means of saving time, we can vote on them all at once instead of voting on each article separately. However, if anyone has a question or a concern about any of these articles, when I read through them, please say "hold" loudly from your seat, and we'll pull that item out and come back to it to answer your question or hear your comment. Is there a second to the consent agenda? I'll now read through the list of the 9 proposed consent agenda articles. Again, please say hold to any item for which you have a question or would like further discussion. Article 1 is to accept annual reports from boards, committees, and departments. Article 9 is to be dismissed. Article 10 is to authorize spending limits on various revolving funds. Article 12 is to appropriate Chapter 90 funds due to the town for roadway maintenance. Article 14 is to authorize the Select Board to accept easements for sidewalks and other purposes. Article 15 is to authorize the Select Board to accept easements on Groton Road. Article 16 is to authorize the Select Board to accept easements on Old Lowell Road. Article 21 is to be dismissed. Article 22 is to accept Burn Place as a public way. Seeing no holds, I'll call for the vote on the consent agenda. We'll do this by voice vote. A majority is all that's required. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. The motion passes. It's unanimous. Okay, having disposed of Articles 1, 9, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16, 21, and 22, we'll move on to Article 2. Article 2 lists certain proposed appropriations from free cash, water enterprise retained earnings, and ambulance enterprise retained earnings. Is there a second to the motion under Article 2? I'll read through the 6 appropriations, and again, if you have any question on any one of them, please say hold loudly from your seat, and we'll come back to that item to get your questions answered or hear your comments. Under Article 2, this print is smaller. I have a motion that the town appropriate from free cash the sum of $850,532 to supplement the following operating budgets for fiscal year 2023. Fire personal services, $75,000. Snow and ice, $400,000. Recycling expenses, $20,000. Transfers to and from trusts for OPEB contributions, $355,532. And further, that the town appropriate from water enterprise retained earnings the sum of $135,000 in order to supplement the fiscal 2023 water enterprise expense budget. And further, that the town appropriate from ambulance enterprise retained earnings the sum of $3,219 in order to supplement the fiscal year 2023 ambulance enterprise expenses. Okay, could the person who has the hold on the transfers to from OPEB come forward to the microphone?
Bob
Yes.
Carter, 8 Nutting Road. What does OPEB stand for? And somebody explain what the amount is for?
Yep. Dan O'Donnell, Finance Director.
Good morning. They're also referred to as OPEBs or other post-employment benefits. And this is to fund the health and life insurance for retirees for Westford. We've been doing this since 2011, and we're building up a balance to fund that liability. Currently, we have $1 million scheduled within the operating budget, and this $355 is to supplement that amount to meet the Select Board policy for fiscal year FY24.
Any other questions on that? Yes, sir.
My name is Doug Burns, 4 Black Bear Lane. So I assume that we will see next year's budget increase of that, so that we don't do this every year? I mean, it seems like this has been a regular thing, so why aren't we funding it in the beginning as opposed to coming in at the end of the day?
Dan, do you want to? Time's up.
Now, this has been a recurring practice here. So this money is not being spent, it's being set aside in a separate fund just to have, and it's building investment income. So The budget's been tight for many years, so this has been one of our mechanisms to continue to fund the OPEB liability, but we haven't always funded the entire amount within the budget. So we look at that each year and make a decision based on the other needs within the town.
Then but then we come back and ask for the money later. So why aren't we doing it when we're setting the budget? This is not being upfront about the operating expenses of the town. If I know I'm going to spend $1.3 million, but I come to the town and tell them I only need $1 million right now when we do the budget, and then I'm going to come in and ask for $300,000 later, why aren't we doing it if we expect this type of a thing? The fact that the budget is tight, the money is finite. So I mean, why are we not breaking it out? Why are we not doing this as one thing that's looking at what we expect to pay and pay it?
Okay.
I do that with my bills.
Thank you for your comment, and I think it really refers to future years. I understand its relevance to this as well, and I would assume that the folks creating the budget will take that into consideration for next year, but thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we will vote on Article 2. Let's do this by voice vote. All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. The motion passes. It is not unanimous. Under Article 3, I have a motion that the town appropriate from free cash the sum of $97,000 for the purpose of providing funds to address associated issues regarding perchlorate contamination. Is there a second to the motion? Are there any questions or comments? This is a recurring motion. All right. Seeing none, we'll take the vote. All in favor of the motion under Article 3, say aye. All opposed? The motion passes. It is unanimous. Under Article 4, I have a motion that the town appropriate from free cash the sum of $129,997.88, which represents the amount received from statewide opioid settlements between the Massachusetts Attorney General and non-bankrupt opioid industry participants for the funding of prevention, harm reduction, treatment, and recovery programs as further detailed in the Massachusetts State Subdivision Agreement for statewide opioid settlements, said funds to be expended under the direction and with the approval of the Select Board. Is there a second to that motion? Our new town manager will address this briefly since we've not dealt with it before.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and attending town meeting this morning, because it's a very important part of our town government, and I'm pleased to give my first presentation before you this morning, and you'll hear from me in a little bit as well. The town of Westford has decided to enter into a settlement agreement related to opioids, and the Select Board voted to do that in the past, and there is the settlement has been provided to provide the town of Westford with a series of funds over the next 15 years to 2038. And under our charter, we would be asking for the town meeting to appropriate those funds, and then we have created an opioid task force that would recommend these funds to the Select Board, and then the Select Board would be approving those at a future meeting. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have. This first allocation we have is $129,997, and in total we are going to be accepting $618,000.
Thank you, Kristen. Are there any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The motion passes. It's unanimous. Under Article 5, Capital Appropriations, we have 6 distinct motions and we'll be considering them separately. The first motion under Article 5 is to appropriate certain sums from free cash, water enterprise retained earnings, stormwater enterprise retained earnings, and the sale of real estate fund in order to provide for particular capital requests and costs incidental and related thereto. Is there a second to that motion? So again, I'll read through the list of the amounts being requested and the purposes the funds are requested for. Please say hold if you have a question on any item, and we'll discuss it and vote on that item separately. The first motion under Article 5 is that the town appropriate from free cash the sum of $2,658,338 to provide for the following capital requests. $36,000 town computer replacements, $392,338 school computer replacements, $100,000 server and storage replacements, $300,000 architectural and engineering for the fire department station, Nabnasset addition, renovation or replacement. $95,000 Stony Brook Middle School front entry patio replacement. $191,000 Nabnasset parking lot and walking path improvements. $34,000 wide area mower, purchase and equip a wide area mower. $40,000 electric vehicle for the facilities department. $500,000 Boston Road reconstruction project. $50,000 Stony Brook Bridge replacement project. $65,000 purchase and equip 3/4 ton 4x4 pickup truck with plow. $80,000 purchase and equip 1 ton dump truck with plow. $260,000 purchase and equip 6-wheel dump truck with a swap loader. $450,000 Abbott Elementary School wastewater treatment plant tank rehabilitation. $65,000 purchase and equip 3/4 ton 4x4 pickup truck with plow. And further, that the town appropriate from water enterprise retained earnings the sum of $366,500 to provide for the following capital requests. $71,500 purchase and equip 4x4 utility truck with plow. $65,000 electric vehicle replacement. $150,000 pilot study for PFAS treatment. $80,000 supplemental appropriation for the Depot Street well replacement. And further, that the town appropriate and transfer from free cash the sum of $110,521.30 from the sale of real estate fund, the sum of $439,478.70, and from the stormwater enterprise retained earnings, the sum of $265,000 to provide for the following capital requests. $550,000 for expanded town hall parking lot. $100,000 for the expanded town hall parking lot. $165,000 for design for the culvert replacement on Acton Road, approximately 150 feet south of Greenwood Road. Okay, I have 4 holds. Will the person who has the hold on the Stony Brook Middle School front entry patio replacement come to the microphone?
Hi.
Thank you.
Megan Eckroth, 8 Timberley Lane. I just want to understand the scope of this project and the Nabnasset. I'm familiar with both schools, not opposed. I just want to better understand where the money's going.
Jeff Goodwin, Director of Facilities.
Was your question about Nabnasset or Stony Brook?
You can start with Stony in order and answer both.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. All right. Jeff Goodwin, Director of Facilities. The Stony Brook front entry patio replacement The concrete patio in front of Stony Brook has been crumbling apart for quite some time. There's been a lot of patch repairs made over the years to remedy the situation, but they're Band-Aid patchwork repairs, and they've become a yearly occurrence to the tune of about $5,000 to $6,000 per year. The plan is to rip up the existing patio. It's sort of a triangular-shaped patio in front of the school, and we're going to replace it with an asphalt patio. It'll hold up much better to the sanding and salting that we do each year during our de-icing process.
Okay, so it's the area like where students go in, right in front of the main entrance. That's what you're talking about?
Directly in front of the main entrance of the school, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And the Nabnasset, what part of the, can you just describe where those repairs are with regards to the school?
So the Nabnasset parking lot and walking path improvements, it's a twofold project. During COVID, we had to adapt and change the way we bring kids in and out of the school. Pick up and drop off, if you've been by Nabnasset during that time, it could be a very busy time, a lot of parent traffic. So they've had to adapt the way they bring kids in and out of the building. And that has led us to funnel traffic around the back side of the school building, and there's a single lane of asphalt back there. We have some drainage issues that need to be rectified in this project, and we also intend to widen out that driveway behind there. It's become a maintenance issue for our plowing crews. We're experiencing a lot of soil movement and just destabilized surfacing back there. So the plan is to widen out that driveway back there. And then the second part of that, the walking path improvements. There is a walking path that leads from the front parking lot at NAB to Pauley Way. And the asphalt along that walking path is degraded quite a bit over time. And that's also an area that we have to maintain as part of our snow removal process. So every year we plow and more asphalt gets removed, and it's become an ongoing maintenance issue and a little bit of a pedestrian safety issue.
Is there any anticipated longevity of these projects once they're redone?
With the proper subgrade, estimated life about 20, 25 years before it would need to potentially be resurfaced.
Okay, thank you very much.
Are there any other questions about either the Stony Brook Middle School front entry or the Nabnasset parking lot and walking trail improvements? Yes, sir.
Doug Barnes, 4 Black Bear Lane. At a previous meeting, we authorized ARPA funds for the repair of walkways and main entrance into schools. I wasn't sure if it was at Stony Brook or Nabnasset. So, question, is this in addition to that funds that we already did?
That was before my time here, so I can't speak to that.
That was last year.
Is there somebody who can address the ARPA funds issue? Okay.
I believe you're referring to the $50,000 in design funds for the Nabnasset walkway. I believe that was taken from ARPA funding. So that's what we've used. We're working with Gale Associates on the design. They've submitted a schematic design, and the number that you're seeing here for $191,000, that's the estimate that they've provided us with that the construction will actually cost.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Any other questions on these two items? Okay, let's go to the other two holds. The person having the question on the expanded town hall parking lot, 2 numbers there. Is that you, sir? Okay. Person who put, okay, there we go.
Jocelyn Bishop, 270 Groton Road. When this fee came into play a couple of years ago, it's imposed upon us by the amount of asphalt that we have on our property, I believe. And so I'm finding it a little ironic that this money is going towards asphalt. Yeah. And so that's kind of a comment. But I'd also like to understand how the purpose of this funding is improving our town's stormwater treatment, because it's my understanding that that's what the Stormwater Enterprise Fund is used for.
Is Paul Starrett here? Oh, there he is. Paul, do you want to answer the question about? Yeah, I think what she asked, please correct me if I'm wrong, is this money that's coming from the stormwater fees that are paid by the community, how is the improvement that's being made in terms of a parking lot going to improve our stormwater situation?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Paul Starrett, Town Engineer. So a significant part of the parking lot project will be stormwater drainage related, and so that's where the funding source should be from.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions on those two holes?
Burns for Black Bear Lane. Why are we needing to expand the parking lot at Town Hall for overflow parking is my understanding? And two, why are we not putting a pervious surface down instead of an impervious surface so that we don't have to worry about stormwater management? I mean, this could be done if it's an overflow. This could be done with a hard-packed surface instead of paving.
Yep, we're going to get your answer. Paul Starrett again, Town Engineer.
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator. I'll speak to the impervious surface nature of the parking lot. The funding that we're asking for does not cover the asphalt that will be needed to cover the parking lot, and because we're planning to use Newport mitigation asphalt for that, and Newport Materials doesn't manufacture impervious surface. In addition to that, if we were able to acquire impervious surface, we would then need to acquire vacuum cleaning equipment to maintain the impervious surface, or annually or semi-annually contract with a vacuum contractor to clean the impervious surface. So that's why we're planning to put down hot mix asphalt instead.
Does that answer your question?
Well, it answers the question.
About the
Doesn't-
impervious surface?
Yeah.
It
doesn't answer the question as to
overflow parking.
why we need
Yep.
the overflow parking
I
so
think,
much.
Kristen, I think our new town manager's here to answer that.
Okay.
Thank you. As you visit Town Hall over the course of a week, you'll notice that there is quite a bit of lack of parking at the Town Hall for visitors and employees. So that is one of the reasons that we're asking for this overflow lot. Additionally, my understanding is that there was a vision created by town residents and staff to connect the Road and Bush to the Town Hall and provide more parking for both of those areas as well. So this would provide that connection and additional parking for that aspect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I think that takes care of all the holes. So I'll call for the vote for the first motion under Article 5. This is a majority vote. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. Okay, let's do that by hands. All in favor, please say aye. Please raise your hand. Put them down, please. All opposed, please raise your hand. Motion passes by majority. Okay, the second motion under Article 5 requests that the town appropriate the sum of $2,150,000 to purchase and equip a tower truck for the fire department, and that the town be authorized to borrow and issue bonds therefore. Is there a second to the second motion under Article 5? Are there questions or comments on this motion? Sir?
Thank you. Russ Coward, 101 Forge Village Road. Quick question. As we begin to consider approving capital appropriations and other larger expenditures, it is important to consider that paying our educators, the largest body of employees in the town, is an expense we know is coming every year. The town has one pool of money it allocates to pay its bills, and every year the town makes a conscious choice to underfund the schools and then shift the blame to the schools. Despite the fact that this town's per pupil spending is among the lowest in the state and its educator salaries are below average for market value or, for some, below living wage. A few years ago, a tremendous amount of human capital, including the finance committee, the school board, the select board, and the taxpayers, came together to support and pass an override because this town made it clear that we support paying our teachers average salaries. Since then, the amount of money allocated to the school budget has steadily decreased, and the intended effect of the override has slipped away as our teachers' salaries are once again significantly below average. So the question for the town manager and the chair of the select board is, as we talk again about spending millions of dollars elsewhere, including on expenses that the taxpayers have not only said they do not support, but have in some instances already voted against, what steps are you planning to take to be able to support the philosophy of the override and pay our educators average salaries? Why are you not listening to the taxpayers? Thank you.
So this article is for the passage of an amount for a new fire truck. And in keeping with the intent of the article, I'm going to ask Deputy Fire Chief Dennehy to explain why we need a new fire truck.
Morning, Deputy Chief Mike Denny. So the current ladder truck is a 2002 tower ladder truck. It's 21 years old. It's significant rust. It's now becoming a safety issue. We've had significant expenses to the truck. Generally, the truck should be replaced every 10 to 15 years. This new truck that we're looking at, they're giving us a leeway of 2 years before we get it. So if we push this off 2 more years, you're going to be looking at a 24-year-old fire truck. Like I said, it's become a safety issue, there's significant rust. And every year we get the ladder tested, the company ends up scraping rust and cleaning up the parking lot where they tested.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other questions or comments about the need for the new fire truck? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. This requires a 2/3 majority. Oh, sorry. Sir?
My name's Alan Andrews, 20 Banbury Drive. And my question is, was this put out for a competitive bid, or did they select just one vendor without any competitive bid?
Thank you.
It goes, when we buy an apparatus, it goes through a governmental bid process. Currently, same process as we bought the recent newest ambulance. It's Houston Galveston, which is accredited by the government. It is an authorized process.
Thank you. Any other, wait, stay here, Chief Denny. Just trying to save you some steps.
Yeah, not quite sure you answered my question. It didn't go for competitive bid is the answer, correctly?
In order for us to purchase a truck, we have to follow a governmental process. We don't necessarily have to go out to bid. It is a process that's in place that the federal government has approved, and that's how we buy our apparatus.
And are there any other processes that would be competitive?
Which one?
Well, I mean, you're following a federal process. Does every town in the state do the same thing?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions on the second motion under Article 5? All right, seeing none. This requires a 2/3 vote, so we're going to use our clickers. If you want to vote yes on the motion, then after I tell you the vote is open, you'll press the green 1A button on your clicker. You'll see an OK on your little LED screen after you press that button, and that's how you know that your vote has been sent. It sometimes takes a few seconds, but you'll see it. If you don't see the OK, just press the button again until you do see the OK. You can't vote twice, so don't worry about that. If you want to vote no, you'll just press the red 2B button until you see the OK. The system registers the last button pressed before voting is closed, so you can change your mind at any time just by pressing the other button right up until the close of the vote. If you don't press either the green 1A button or the red 2B button, then no vote will register for your clicker. None of the other buttons produce any vote. Everybody understand? You all have your clickers ready? Okay, voting is open. You can now vote. Okay, voting is now closed. There we have it. So the motion passes by 2/3. The vote is 309 to 76. The miracles of modern science. All right. The third motion under Article 5 is to be dismissed. Jeff Goodwin, can you just explain why we're dismissing this?
We're asking for this motion to be dismissed today on the grounds that we did not receive any bids for the project in our recent solicitation. We are currently gathering feedback as to why there was no interest in bidding on the project, and we hope to apply that feedback into our next solicitation coming out in the next few months. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments about this third motion under Article 5? Yes, at the microphone? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Seeing none, we'll take the vote. This also requires a 2/3 vote. Oh, I'm sorry. This requires a simple majority, so let's take a voice vote. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. The motion passes. It is not unanimous. The fourth motion under Article 5 does require a 2/3 majority to pass, and the motion is that the town appropriate $2 million for the Boston Road reconstruction project and authorize bonding therefore. The borrowing will be issued as a general obligation of the town, but it is the town's intent that the debt service for this borrowing be paid for from the Water Enterprise Fund. Is there a second to the fourth motion under Article 5? Are there any comments or questions? Dennis.
Yes. Dennis Galvin, 90 Concord Road. I have a question for the town engineer. This project, which is the reconstruction of the Boston Road, was my understanding that this was funded by a state grant. It was basically an initiative by the state, and now we're saying that we have to commit a certain amount of money, $2 million, to this, and we're also drawing from the Water Enterprise Fund, which I think has got its issues of its own. So I'd like an explanation of that, please.
Yeah, Steve Cronin, Director of Public Works.
So this project is being partially funded by the state's Transportation Improvement Program. They will fund the road reconstruction, the replacement of stormwater. There are certain items in the project that are considered non-participating items, and water main replacement is one of them, along with right-of-way damages and any landscaping that we do. So the Water Enterprise will be funding just the replacement of the water main on Boston Road.
Thank you. Sir, at the center microphone.
Doug Barnes, 4 Black Bear Lane. Could you provide a better detail of what this reconstruction is all about?
And give us a general overview.
The water main or the project in general?
The project in general.
Okay. So this is going to be a full road reconstruction project along with added pedestrian safety improvements. So we're going to be replacing all of the town-owned infrastructure beneath the road as well as the road surface. We're going to be extending the sidewalk on Boston Road down to the fire station, reconstructing the existing sidewalk, and adding a bike lane and some other added safety features on the road.
Does that answer your question?
It does give me the answers I wanted. I question, are we widening the road to put a bike lane in?
Paul Starrett, Town Engineer.
And to be clear, Madam Moderator, this is to the floor, the water line question about the project, or we're asking about the $2 million for the water?
Yes, okay. Yes.
So the road width is variable right now, and it will continue to be variable. We're reducing the traveled width, which is confusing to people because that includes all the way to the edge of the road. and putting in a bike lane. So the travel lane will actually reduce to 10 feet.
Okay? Thank you. Seeing no further questions, I'll call for the vote. This is also a 2/3 vote, so we'll be using our clickers again. Am I right this time? All right, so again, if you want to vote aye, you'll press your green 1A button or your green 2B vote button if you want to vote nay. The voting is now open, so please go ahead and vote. All right, the voting is now closed. The motion passes by a 2/3 majority. The vote is 258 in favor, 112 against. Moving on to the 5th motion under Article 5, which again, oh, sorry, Lynn?
Taller than me. I had a voter just ask me, she said her vote appeared not to have been counted on that last count.
Because?
She didn't come up with the okay. I guess my question would be, like, what do you do? If you don't see the okay, just wave your hand at you?
Yes.
Okay.
If you don't get an okay, please wave your hand. Since one vote would not have changed that result, I'm not going to re-vote it. But please, if you're not getting the okay, then press it again. The first solution is to press the button again. If you press it multiple times and still don't get an okay, please raise your hand. Okay? Yeah, so will the person who has the issue with their clicker come forward and we'll get you or go back to the tellers and we'll get you a different one. Thank you. Okay, the 5th motion under Article 5, again a 2/3 majority, is that the town appropriate $1,045,000 for the rehabilitation of the Francis Hill water storage tank and authorize bonding therefore. The borrowing will be issued as a general obligation of the town, but it is the town's intent that the debt service for this borrowing be paid for from the Water Enterprise Fund. Is there a second? Any questions or comments for this article? Mrs. Hardy at the second mic, at the center
Ellen Hardy,
microphone.
39 Main Street. On behalf of the library director and Marilyn Day and myself, we ask that the spelling of Francis be corrected to Frances. It is named for Frances Keyes, the wife of Solomon Keyes, who settled that part of town. It's a feminine. Thank you.
We'll ensure that that's done in all future references. Sir?
Doug Burns, 4 Black Bear Lane. I just want clarification on what's written versus what was spoken. It says it is the town's intent that the debt service for this borrowing be paid for in the first instance from the Water Enterprise Fund. What's the second interest?
Okay, so just generally, my words are not the exact words of the motion. The motion itself knows that. And now let's get the answer to your question from Dan. Okay, Dan O'Donnell, Finance Director.
Yes, so on all these bonding articles, we do work with bond counsel. So legally, the town cannot commit to appropriate water funds for this. However, each year that we produce the budget, we do schedule those payments out of the water enterprise budget. So this is just a language that we are mandated to put in here, but we have always paid for water projects using the water budget in the future.
All right, seeing no other comments or questions, I'll call for the vote. Again, this requires a 2/3 majority, so we'll use our clickers. This is the 5th motion. All right, you may now vote. Voting is open. Try again. All right, please go to the back and get another one. Please make sure you're pressing the button more than once, and then go to the back if you're... Oh, wait, sorry. You can't get another one while the vote is open. Sorry. Those folks who are going to the back, can you please wait? You cannot get another one while the vote is open. We're gonna have to close it and start. There's too many people. Okay, we're closing this vote. We're gonna do it again after these folks get their replacement clickers. Anyone whose clicker wasn't working, please go to the back and get a replacement from the tellers. Yes, ma'am.
Jean O'Connor, 2 Beaverbrook Road. I just noticed that the last vote, not this one, the one before, it took my clicker almost a minute.
Yes, it does. It does take a few minutes.
So I think if people could wait a little bit and maybe hold the vote open a little bit longer,
we'll do that.
That might be helpful.
Thank you for the suggestion. We'll do that next time. Let's just get these people with new clickers in their hands. All right, has everyone who had a problem with their clicker gotten a new clicker? Is there anyone who's still waiting for a new clicker? Okay. We all set? Anyone waiting for a new clicker still? All right, let's try that vote again. And this time we'll leave the voting open for a full minute, since it apparently does take some seconds for the vote to register. So the voting is now open. Press the green button to vote yes, red button to vote no. All right. Is everybody all set with the voting? Okay, voting is now closed. The motion passes with a 2/3 majority. The vote is 316 to 57. The 6th motion under Article 5 requires a 2/3 majority as well. The motion is that the town appropriate $1,500,000 for the replacement of the Pond Brook culvert and the Blue Brook culvert and authorize bonding therefore. The borrowing will be issued as a general obligation of the town, but it's the town's intent that the debt service for this borrowing be paid for from the Stormwater Enterprise Fund. Is there a second? Is there a second? Thank you. Questions or comments on this article? Seeing none, we'll be voting again with the clickers. Yeah. Okay, voting is now open. So it seems like the trick is to keep the voting open for a minute, full minute. All right, everybody all set? Voting is closed. The motion passes with a 2/3 majority. The vote is 329 to 48. Okay, under Article 6, I have a motion that the town appropriate $12,400,000, including $11,400,000 to be borrowed contingent on a Proposition 2.5 debt exclusion ballot vote, and $1 million to be transferred from free cash for the demolition of the existing building at 51 Main Street and the construction of a new municipal building in that location, and for other costs incidental and related thereto. Is there a second to the motion? Please direct your attention to the video screen. There'll be a presentation for the article before we take questions and comments.
Town Center Fire Station, a building we no longer use since the construction of the new fire station. It is in disrepair and there is no value in renovating the building. The project is necessary because our population has grown by 17% since 2008, resulting in an increase in demand for town services. A needs study was conducted that identified two primary needs: additional office space to provide decent working conditions, and improved meeting space for government meetings. The needs study and design has been supported by 4 town meetings with allocations of over $900,000. Our permanent town building committee has operated under the directive of town meeting, holding over 100 public meetings over 7 years to solicit input.
Let's take a look at these two needs. We need to upgrade and add office spaces for town staff to provide them with appropriate working conditions in order to deliver critical town services, including IT, veteran services, and community wellness. IT is currently housed in an old fire station situated in a floodplain, far removed from all town and school IT functions. The vulnerability of the space is a high priority because of the contributions to both town and school operations. Veteran Services is currently housed at Millennium. This is problematic for multiple reasons. There is no reasonable handicap parking. The nearest parking spaces are more than 100 yards from the door. Numerous vulnerabilities are associated with the age of the Millennium building. As the schools assess their future administrative office needs, we need to be proactive in providing space for VSO. Our recently hired community wellness coordinator does not have her own office and is currently sharing an office with the animal control officer.
It is time we move IT out of a floodplain and closer to town operations. With the new building, our IT facilities will be upgraded to the 21st century with state-of-the-art HVAC and security systems. The new office space will be accessible and modern, finally providing adequate workspace for the IT staff. The IT training facilities will serve town staff and school employees. As the demand for veteran services has grown, we owe them a dedicated office that is accessible and near handicap parking. Our veterans agent will be better able to welcome veterans, meet with them in a comfortable, private setting, and ensure they are connected to the benefits they are eligible for. A dedicated office space reflects the town's commitment to our veterans. The town has made a commitment to community well-being and mental health. To fulfill that commitment, we need to provide the Community Wellness Coordinator with a secure, private, and closed-door office space where people who seek out her assistance can be assured that their confidentiality and privacy will be respected and maintained. Additionally, town meeting supported the hiring of a facilities manager and a sustainability coordinator. Currently, these positions are sharing space located in Millennium. The town has made a commitment to these positions, and that commitment includes providing them adequate office space. There is a need for improved meeting space. After Town Hall was renovated in 2010, the largest meeting room for weekly government meetings only seats 20 people. The room is the official meeting site for the Select Board, Planning Board, Zoning Board of Appeals, and Conservation Commission. These meetings are regularly attended by more than 20 people. Effective democracy is inclusive and happens in spaces that are adequate to accommodate the public. Attendance at and participation in these meetings will only grow as our population grows. This new space will provide seating for up to 100 people, will serve as the police training room to replace the former training room that is now the dispatch center, will serve as a multifunctional space with retractable partition walls, is located on the first floor and accessible off the main lobby, and will be wired for hybrid meetings, which we expect will be the norm in the future.
In addition to COVID delays, the 2021 Fall Town Meeting voted to require all future building projects to be net zero, which prompted additional design work and further delayed the project. Thus, the design now includes healthy interiors with low VOC products, highly recycled content materials, low-flow plumbing fixtures, high-efficiency electric heating and cooling systems, highly efficient LED lighting, and the building will be designed with provisions for solar PV systems. After more than 100 public meetings and 4 town meetings, this plan has received careful scrutiny and has earned the support of the Planning Board, Finance Committee, Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee, and the Westford Select Board. With rising construction costs on the horizon, it is necessary that we move this project forward now.
Westford residents use and enjoy infrastructure that was paid for and built by past generations. We've chosen to maintain our historic buildings for their contribution to the charm of our community. It is now our turn to make the next forward-looking infrastructure investment. The Town Hall expansion will provide space for public meetings, give town staff adequate space to do their jobs, and ensure town services keep up with the needs and demands of our growing population.
To lower the intensity and also either turn off that green and red thing, it's blinding.
Yes. Yes.
Or move it, and then when you vote, you can raise it up again.
We can turn this light off right above, and that really helps. There's a special key for the light, so we're getting it.
That looks much better. Thank you. And just a refresher on the two different types of debt that we have. Excluded debt is typically used for larger projects and is excluded from the restrictions of Prop 2.5, meaning the amounts for the annual debt payments are added onto the tax base. Our most recent debt exclusion votes were taken for the J.B. Fletcher Library last fall, and before that, the Fletcher Fire Station 1 back in 2015. So non-excluded debt is typically used for smaller and much more frequent projects. This type of debt is absorbed within the levy limit and competes with other operational needs. Okay, so for 51 Main Street, we have an estimated total cost of $12,400,000. We're proposing to offset the cost of the debt exclusion with $1 million in free cash. This will produce an annual debt payment of $809,400 over 20 years. So the impact on the tax bill for a median single-family home assessed at $660,500 will be approximately $84.35 in FY24. The cost on the tax bill is expected to decline over time as the town's overall assessed value increases. So as the town grows, the individual assessments will lessen. So for Article 7, we have the Blanchard Middle School roof replacement, and this is a total cost of $6,425,000. This project is going to be funded through bonds, excluded bonds of $3.5 million, and $2,940,000 from the Mass School Building Authority. So as Jeff just alluded to, this is money that is basically given to us from the state that reduces our overall cost for a project that needs to be done. The roof is currently leaking, and our insurance deductible on the roof is now $50,000 from Maya, where we normally have a $5,000 deductible. So this is an urgent need for the town. So the cost, or the impact on the median home will be approximately $25.15 in FY25. And again, the tax bill is expected to decline over time, so the impact of this as the town grows. So now I'm gonna hand it off to Christine to talk a little bit more about the overall debt for the town.
Okay, so this chart, next slide, thank you. So this chart shows the amount of excluded debt for a household assessed at $660,500 for the period from FY22 to 29. The top line on the chart shows excluded debt for projects that have already been bonded. The library expansion, which is highlighted in blue, was approved last fall but is not yet bonded. FY25 and 26 reflect short-term interest only for the library. Bonding is expected to take place in FY27. For 51 Main Street, highlighted in gray, is expected to cost $84 in the first year and will decline over time because the excluded bond payments for the Stony Brook, Crisafulli, and Miller schools and the highway garage are all ending in FY23. You can see on the top line how that 24 drops down quite a bit. This is an ideal time to consider excluded projects. Next slide. In this slide, we're adding on the Blanchard roof project so you can see the impact of all of the projects that are currently known and are being proposed. We're also adding in a line item of $1 million, just as sort of a visual aid to help understand what the impact on every $1 million of excluded debt would cause on a house of $660,500 in value. So it's $7 per million. Next slide. This is Dan's favorite slide. He loves all these great graphs and stuff. So this slide is showing how the excluded debt has been declining in recent years. You can see on the left the green bars that are the schools, and in the yellow that's the highway garage, which is going away in 24. You can see in 24 and following how the new projects are expected to fill in. You may notice that in 2027 there is a less gradual increase. Our projections are always based on level debt payments. However, we will have the opportunity at the time of bonding to structure the debt to smooth out the debt payments in the early years, just as we did with the fire station. So although on the chart it looks like there's kind of a spike, we will be able to smooth that out at the time that we actually borrow the money they can structure the debt to help ladder that in more smoothly for us. Next slide. All right. So this is sort of a historical look at our excluded debt on an average home. So the 660 for 2023 is our median home value. We took the median home values off the DOR website and calculated the tax. We knew what the excluded debt was and took it as the same sort of information that we've seen in these other charts. And you can see how in 2005, our excluded debt made up about $788 on the average home. It's fallen to $595 in 2010. 354 by 2015, and $288 by 2023. The new debt that we're proposing is going to be replacing some of the debt that's falling off, but far lower than the historical norms that we have seen in Westford. If all the projects shown here, the new center building bonds at 11.4, the library expansion at 23.4, the Blanchard roof at 3.5, and with the $1 million contingency, were approved, we would experience annual debt exclusion costs between $300 and $400 on the average home.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Paul?
Well, it provides me with some more data. I
think that's what you asked for.
If we can come back to the graph for a moment. I have the same concern I had at the special town meeting in October. The picture for the current year and the next couple of years looks really good, and we're doing a good job of managing to a total level of about $3 million a year of excluded debt for the last decade or so. The concern is what happens when the library debt hits, because it's such a big bite, and it also will be around for a long time. If this graph were continued out until all the debt expires, we'll see that those last three bars on the chart are going to look awful familiar, because most of that debt's going to be around until at least 2039 or 2044, which means taxpayers will be asked to cough up through excluded debt $4 million a year in addition to the town budget. My question is, are we not planning any excluded debt projects for the next 15 or 20 years? If so, where's the money going to come from? And I passed a bunch of people in the parking lot looking for money for teacher salaries and things like that. It just seems to me that we have a huge long-term funding issue, unless you guys have some magic you can tell me about.
I think we understand your question. Okay, really, save your applause. It's just spending extra time. Do you want to respond to, anybody want to respond to that?
So these are the current projects that we know at this point in time. We do have a school feasibility study coming out in the spring that could add additional information, but this is just showing the impact of the projects that we discussed here today.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Yes.
Jean O'Connor, 2 Beaverbrook Road. I am planning to vote for both of these motions because I think they are valuable to the town. However, I think it is a bit disingenuous to say that as the town grows, the debt is the individual amount paid by households will go down. First of all, the town is fairly close to build out, I think, so I don't know how much more it's going to grow. But the second thing is that in looking at our tax bill, our property tax bill over the last few years, the assessments have gone up considerably at a very fast clip, at least as far as I'm concerned. So I think it's important to be honest about how much each household is going to be responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. And the person at the next, honestly, folks, we have, if you want to finish today, we need to move as quickly as we can. Otherwise, we'll all be back here Monday night.
Heather Fitzpatrick.
Fitzpatrick, Shannon Circle. I'm on the Capital Committee, and I just want to put that hat on for a second. There's also a feasibility study you've already voted for today, which would be for the NAB fire station, so that could be probably excluded debt coming in the future as well. But my question on this is, what is the assumed interest rate in all these calculations on the per house?
I think we can't hear you because you're not speaking directly into the microphone.
I was asking what the assumed interest rate is on all these calculations.
4%.
And I think we've been using 4% for a while, but the feds have increased the interest rate. So is that still a reasonable assumption to use that?
We think it is. We are still getting reports of municipal debt that's been issued, and we're not over 4 yet. Last week, I get reports on the interest rates on treasuries on a weekly basis from one of our investment firms, and the investment rate for treasuries went down last week. So I think that it's hard to predict, but it does seem that the rates are kind of smoothing out. Remember that I explained last time that we don't get the same interest rate that you might get if you go to a bank. Our bonds are considered investment grade, and we get premiums that, although the coupon on the bond may be a higher number, the premium causes the net interest cost to be lower. So it's not dollar for dollar what you're seeing in the marketplace.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions or comments, I'll call for the vote. Again, this requires a 2/3 vote, so please get your clickers out. Vote with the green button if you want to vote aye, and the red button if you want to vote nay. Voting is now open. We are voting on Article 7. Article 7, the Blanchard Middle School roof. That's what we're voting on. Is that clear? Voting's open. Everyone all set with their voting? Okay, voting is now closed. The motion passes by a 2/3 majority. The vote is 356 to 38. Now we're going to go back to Article 6, which is 51 Main Street, and we're going to see a video.
I'm Elizabeth Almeida, former chair of the Select Board.
The Town Hall expansion will replace the existing Town Center Fire Station, a building we no longer use since the construction of the new fire station. It is in disrepair, and there is no value in renovating the building. The project is necessary because our population has grown by 17% since 2008, resulting in an increase in demand for town services. A needs study was conducted that identified 2 primary needs: additional office space to provide decent working conditions and improved meeting space for government meetings. The needs study and design has been supported by 4 town meetings with allocations of over $900,000. Our permanent town building committee has operated under the directive of town meeting, holding over 100 public meetings over 7 years to solicit input.
Let's take a look at these 2 needs. We need to upgrade and add office spaces for town staff to provide them with appropriate working conditions in order to deliver critical town services, including IT, Veteran Services, and Community Wellness. IT is currently housed in an old fire station situated in a floodplain, far removed from all town and school IT functions. The vulnerability of the space is a high priority because of the contributions to both town and school operations. Veteran Services is currently housed at Millennium. This is problematic for multiple reasons. There's no reasonable handicap parking. The nearest parking spaces are more than 100 yards from the door. Numerous vulnerabilities are associated with the age of the Millennium building. As the schools assess their future administrative office needs, we need to be proactive in providing space for VSO. Our recently hired community wellness coordinator does not have her own office and is currently sharing an office with the animal control officer.
It is time we move IT out of a floodplain and closer to town operations. With the new building, our IT facilities will be upgraded to the 21st century with state-of-the-art HVAC and security systems. The new office space will be accessible and modern, finally providing adequate workspace for the IT staff. The IT training facilities will serve town staff and school employees. As the demand for veteran services has grown, we owe them a dedicated office that is accessible and near handicap parking. Our veterans agent will be better able to welcome veterans, meet with them in a comfortable, private setting, and ensure they are connected to the benefits they are eligible for. A dedicated office space reflects the town's commitment to our veterans. The town has made a commitment to community well-being and mental health. To fulfill that commitment, we need to provide the Community Wellness Coordinator with a secure, private, and closed-door office space where people who seek out her assistance can be assured that their confidentiality and privacy will be respected and maintained. Additionally, town meetings supported the hiring of a facilities manager and a sustainability coordinator. Currently, these positions are sharing space located in Millennium. The town has made a commitment to these positions, and that commitment includes providing them adequate office space. There is a need for improved meeting space. After Town Hall was renovated in 2010, the largest meeting room for weekly government meetings only seats 20 people. The room is the official meeting site for the Select Board, Planning Board, Zoning Board of Appeals, and Conservation Commission. These meetings are regularly attended by more than 20 people. Effective democracy is inclusive and happens in spaces that are adequate to accommodate the public. Attendance at and participation in these meetings will only grow as our population grows. This new space will provide seating for up to 100 people, will serve as the police training room to replace the former training room that is now the dispatch center, will serve as a multifunctional space with retractable partition walls, is located on the first floor and accessible off the main lobby, and will be wired for hybrid meetings, which we expect will be the norm in the future.
In addition to COVID delays, the 2021 Fall Town Meeting voted to require all future building projects to be net zero, which prompted additional design work and further delayed the project. Thus, the design now includes healthy interiors with low VOC products, highly recycled content materials, low flow plumbing fixtures, high efficiency electric heating and cooling systems, highly efficient LED lighting. And the building will be designed with provisions for solar PV systems. After more than 100 public meetings and 4 town meetings, this plan has received careful scrutiny and has earned the support of the Planning Board, Finance Committee, Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee, and the Westford Select Board. With rising construction costs on the horizon, it is necessary that we move this project forward now.
Westford residents use and enjoy infrastructure that was paid for and built by past generations. We've chosen to maintain our historic buildings for their contribution to the charm of our community. It is now our turn to make the next forward-looking infrastructure investment. The Town Hall expansion will provide space for public meetings, give town staff adequate space to do their jobs, and ensure town services keep up with the needs and demands of our growing population.
All right. Are there any questions or comments? The center microphone, John.
Yeah, I'm John Fercucci, 115 Cold Spring Road. This is the second project where we've seen there are provisions for solar. This is would be a brand new building. Why will solar be available immediately in use on that building? And if not, what's the delay?
Tom, do you want to answer? Okay, flip a coin.
For help for Eric. Hi, Tom Clay, Vice Chair of the Select Board. So this project will be solar ready. Where exactly and when the solar panels arrive will depend on a couple things. One is we've got town efforts going to find places to fund those and secure those. We also have an agreement with a company called Amoresco, which is looking town-wide at all the appropriate sites for solar. So it could well be that that program identifies that as a location for solar, and that's how those panels will get there. It could be that we pursue that through another town initiative, but it's absolutely the intent to get solar there and have it truly be net zero.
If I can just comment, I know Tom supports solar, as do I. I just feel like there's a delay here. It sounds like it's taking longer than it should, but that's just a comment.
Thank you. To my left.
Heather Fitzpatrick, Shannon Circle. There's no denying that we need extra space for some of our town employees, but after many years of delay in this project, it only provides a solution for a few of the people in the Millennium Building that need space. In a few short months, we will have answers from the school feasibility study. I'm not privy to what any of those results will be. There may be room in a school for some of this administration. There may not be room in a school there may not be room in a school for any administration, and we may need to build some sort of structure, building, relocation of school admin. There could possibly be the answer that the schools that are being looked at are not ready for educating our kids in the 21st century, and a school would be preferred, freeing up space to move admin. We should not be spending $12 million plus interest when it provides only a partial solution to our space needs. Facilities and IT would be housed in this new building, and they work significantly with our schools. It makes sense to put them all together. Also, remember that every building that comes on turns into an operating expense for the town, as we will need to maintain them. Am I out of time?
No, not yet.
Okay, maintain them.
But feel free to wrap up.
Okay, maintain them, clean them, supply them. And also, it is noted that, I'm sorry. Oh, also, the taxpayers will only support so many debt exclusions. We've talked about the roof at Blanchard. There's this one. We approved the feasibility study already this meeting for the Knapp Fire Station and what might come out of that. So we need to be very careful as we proceed forward, because the taxpayers are not going to support all of those things.
Thank you, Heather. To my right, Megan.
Megan Ackroth, 8 Timberley Lane. I spoke about the expansion to the library at the last town meeting, and for sort of the same reasons I am opposed to this. I spoke about how we need to maintain the buildings that we have here in town and treasure those spaces. We have 9 school buildings, 10 if you count Millennium, that are all in various levels of disrepair or include spaces that are not conducive to the education of our students that we claim to value so highly. We are in the middle of a feasibility study to determine what those spaces need, what they need to look like. I do not think it is the right time to build a new building, but rather to focus the attention on the buildings that we already have and what we claim to value with our town budget. Thank you.
Thank you. At the center microphone.
Doug Barnes, 4 Black Bear Lane. I'm also opposed to this. This is piecemeal work. Matter of fact, that video was a wonderful segue about the Millennium School and how it's deteriorating. oh, when the Millennium School deteriorated, it's only supposed to have a 20-year life. Matter of fact, it was actually supposed to be, all those buildings were supposed to be sold when we originally put it in. It was only a 2-year program. When that needs to be replaced, where's the money coming from? Is there another building that we're going to build? Are we going to need another debt exclusion? Yes. Oh, we need meeting space. What's wrong with all of the meeting space like we have at Westford Academy? We have auditoriums. We have auditoriums at Blanchard. Why aren't these meetings being held there, which have enormous seating capacity? So the whole premise that we need meeting space, we just went through and said, oh, we'll build onto the library and have meeting space. But we keep adding meeting space, which is dead space that doesn't get used around the whole time. We would serve to conserve our funds. We have teachers. We have a whole bunch of other cost issues that we should be spending our money on instead of debt exclusions for a new building. Thank you.
Thank you. The microphone to my left.
Yes, Cheryl Dunn, 3 Juneberry Lane. I do not support this article. I believe Robinson School Elementary has very similar space issues that could be resolved with part of these funds, as well as similar issues to NASSET's parking lot and path improvements. The same issues exist at Robinson. So I can't support this article.
Thank you. The microphone to my right, please, please.
Thank you. Mike Berlinski, Chair of the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee. We support this motion, as you can see in the motion packet. And the reason is that we work very closely with the Permanent Town Building Committee on this. We really considered energy use, environmental impact, and cost. You see the result is a building that will be very energy efficient, will utilize efficient electric systems, and reduce cost. And we appreciate that this building, as I said, minimize energy use, minimize greenhouse gas emissions, and minimize the operating cost. Thank you.
Thank you. At the center microphone.
Terry Stater, 2A Old Colony, former veteran service officer. I vote in favor of this. We've been working on this for 7 years. The needs for our veteran support has only increased over the years. We have a whole new generation of Afghan, Iraqi veterans, a 20-year war period, that are going to be coming over 60 years of age and have mobility issues. They're 20 to 50 years old now. 60% of our population, veteran population, is over 60 today, Vietnam, Korean War. But we need accessibility, we need the privacy. Shared office space is not the solution that we have at a Millennium Building. I loved my compatriots of that building. It was a great opportunity, but the accessibility until you wheel the wheelchair through the parking lot of the Abbott School, around the buses, around the kids, it just doesn't work. And to put veteran services up at the town center near local government where our headquarters is just makes sense, and we should do this.
Thank you. To my left.
Joanne Lund, 43 Hildreth Street. I'm speaking on behalf of Westford Climate Action, and we support this passage of this article. It's clear that the town needs the new space, and this building has been designed to be essentially fossil fuel free. The passage of this article moves the town closer to diminishing our impact on climate change and aligns with local and state guidelines for achieving net zero emissions. Town has an opportunity now to begin the changeover from fossil fuel buildings to more environmentally efficient buildings, and we hope you vote yes.
Thank you. To my right.
Nancy Cook, 25 North Main. 14 years ago, when we lost Billy Duggan to suicide, propelled me into a world I didn't know existed. Mental health wasn't discussed. The word suicide was whispered at best. Today, we've come out of the darkness and into a place where Westford has hired a mental health wellness coordinator. Between her and our director, Ray Dick, they have done marvelous things. But if you want to see her, you have to go through the animal control office. There's no privacy. There's no way to come and open your heart and talk about the things that are bothering you without being in a private space. I'm urging you to support this and give us some more forward motion into the mental health wellness for the people in this town. Thank you.
Thank you. At the center microphone.
Hi, I'm Nancy Abriel, 4 Depot Street. Just a quick question. What happens to that meeting space, which is inadequate at the town hall presently, if we go forward with some new meeting spaces?
We would continue to use that space, so it would be an auxiliary space that would be possible for meetings, but all of the meetings that you saw in that video that often have large attendance would move to the new space.
Is there any place that you can move those meetings now so that people can be accommodated?
There are times when some of those meetings do get moved to larger locations, but to have a space that's specific for it, that has the right hybrid meeting structure built into it, so it's got full accessibility for people who are remote, that's what this would accomplish.
To my left.
Amy Bailey, 13 Boston Road. I have one point and one question, and I'll start with my question because it piggybacks on that one. Is there any reason that large meetings can't move to a school space that is already equipped with the ability to do remote?
So as part of the study, and Tom may be able to help this out, we looked at sort of all the needs for meetings and how often there's needs for meetings. And so it was, I guess to answer your question, it would be possible piecemeal from time to time to move individual meetings to certain places. There are other locations that are equipped for hybrid, but we believe to have really inclusive democracy, it would be much better if we had those meetings regularly. Every meeting had the opportunity to welcome people in that way. Every meeting had the opportunity to open the door and invite people in to participate.
And did you say you had a comment as well?
We're frequently told that we have one pot of money when people start to talk about the school side and the town side, and it does feel a little bit right now as if we're approaching this from a town side and not a one pot of money side. Knowing that the feasibility study is coming out soon, I think there will be some interesting findings from that, and I think it would be wise for us to delay any decision on this new town building when we may find that we have needs across other areas of our town that also need to be solved. One wise woman once said, "Why is the Robinson building still a school? Why are we educating 87-year-olds in a giant pod when that would be a great place to put the entire building department so you could go from desk to get what you need? It would be accessible to everyone. There's a gym there already. There's a large meeting space with a stage. So are we really focusing on the needs of our entire town, or are we still separating ourselves into these boxes of the school side and the town side and competing for our needs?"
To my right. You can start.
Eileen Tatro, 15 Oak Road. My pronouns are she and they. I'd like to call the question.
Okay, we have a motion to call the question, and this requires a 2/3 vote from the audience. I stand corrected. It's a majority vote only. Sorry. Okay, I think, sorry?
Point of order?
Yes.
Could you please just define for the voters what the motion that has been made means?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
The motion to call the question means that if we vote in favor of doing that, argument and discussion of this article will be terminated and will go immediately to a vote on the underlying article. Does everyone understand that? Is there a second to the motion to call the question? Yes. Okay. Okay. I'm going to do this with the clickers. So please take your clickers out. Even though it's only a majority vote, I think it's best to do this with the clickers. So If you want to vote in favor of terminating argument, you'll press the green button. If you don't want to terminate argument and want to go back to the discussion, you'll press the red button. Everybody clear on that? Okay. Voting is open. Okay, everybody all set with the voting? Yes? Do you have an issue, sir? No. Okay. Okay, voting is closed. The motion to terminate discussion passes. The vote is 267 to 133. So we'll now move to a vote on Article 6. This requires a 2/3 majority. If you're in favor of Article 6, we're going to do this with the clickers, you'll press the green button. If you're opposed to Article 6, you'll press the red button. Anybody have any questions on what we're doing? We're voting on the main motion now. Okay, voting is now open. Everyone set with the voting? Okay, voting is now closed. The motion does not pass. Okay. I'm sorry, the motion fails. The vote is 162 yes, 241 no. All right, we've already voted on Article 7. And it's 11:50. I'm going to try and do the next article, or at least part of it, before we go to lunch. So under Article 8, we have 3 separate motions dealing with the expenditure of community preservation funds. The first motion under Article 8 is for the appropriation of $1,600,045 from community preservation funds for various projects. Is there a second to the first motion under Article 8? I'll now read through the list of projects, the amounts proposed, and the community preservation funds that the appropriations will be coming from. Once again, if you have a question or comment on any item listed, please say hold loudly from your seat, and we'll come back to that item. $311,545 from undesignated fund balance to the Community Housing Reserve. $190,000 from undesignated fund balance for the Conservation Trust Fund for future open space land purchases. $312,000 from the fund balance reserve for community housing to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for the development of potential affordable housing projects. $133,500 from the undesignated fund balance for the Stony Brook Track and Athletic Courts design project. $400,000 from the undesignated fund balance for the Jack Walsh Tennis and Basketball Court Improvements Construction Project. $25,000 from the undesignated fund balance for the Forge VFW Softball Fields Dugout Project. $180,000 from the undesignated fund balance for the Forge Beach and Ronan McElligott Memorial Playground Sunshade Structures. $45,000 from the undesignated fund balance for the Parkerville Schoolhouse Window Restoration Project, and $3,000 from the historic fund balance for the Antique Snow Roller Restoration Project. Okay, will the person who had the hold on the Stony Brook Track and Athletic Courts design project approach the microphone?
My name is Tom Kelly, and I'm from Knott Street, and I have a question on this. Is this to expand the courts and the tracks that are in existence down there? Can I have some clarification on that, please?
Jeff?
No, there is no intention at this time to expand the current footprint of what's there. This is to address the deteriorating conditions of the track, basketball courts, and the tennis courts. But at this time, there is no ambition to expand the footprint of what's there.
All right. George?
14 Haywood Road. I have a question for the CPC, I believe. To my way of thinking, well, actually by law, the CPC is empowered to aid us with projects to restore, like the Parkerville school windows, and major efforts of that sort. It's not allowed to fund maintenance. And to my mind, the Stony Brook School track project is simply maintenance. These facilities wear out after time and need to be replaced. And so the question for the CPC is there a clear, specific definition of what constitutes maintenance and what constitutes restoration and preservation?
Before we get CPC, I'm going to ask Town Council to address that. Will Town Council's answer be okay with you, George?
Sure.
Thank you through you, Madam Moderator. Good morning. My name is Greg Corbo, Town Council for the Town of Westford. The question here is, what is the difference between maintenance and minor repairs that are not allowed under the Community Preservation Act and rehabilitations, which are? And really, it's a matter of degree. If it's general, incidental upkeep that happens on a regular basis, that is something that you're not supposed to use Community Preservation Act funds. However, if it is a major rehabilitation or extraordinary repair, then that is something you can use Community Preservation Act funds.
Sir?
Hi, Rick Posh, 19 Chicory Road. I do recall when Community Preservation Act was passed, there is a state match from the Commonwealth. What is that match now, just so I understand the facts? Thank you.
So the state match that we received this year is $934,577.
Can you state that as a percentage? Thanks.
It's percent of total revenue. I'm gonna say it's around 40%, 45%.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no other questions, we'll call for the vote. This is a majority vote, so let's try voice vote. All in favor of the first motion under Article 8, say aye. All opposed, say nay. The motion passes. It is not unanimous. Let's go on to the second motion. Second motion under Article 8 is for the appropriation of $165,354 from community preservation funds for certain projects at Meadowbrook Farm, specifically $75,000 from the undesignated fund balance for the Meadowbrook Farm well project and $90,354 from the undesignated fund balance for the Meadowbrook Farm food insecurity and sustainability project. Is there a second to the motion? I see no comments or questions. Oh, okay.
Heather Fitzpatrick, Shannon Circle. I just want to preface this by saying, in my past, I have advocated for gardens for those in need. I've driven to Concord and driven the produce back to Tadmug. However, with this, I struggle to see how one crop would be beneficial to reducing our bills at the Cameron Senior Center Food Bank. The main issue I have with this is that it's a highly sensitive area that the town converted those area homes and businesses to town water. We have a highly cautionary opinion from legal counsel warning of liability, strict liability if on town land with costly litigation potential. Counsel further warned the applicant had requested the town pay his water bill for agriculture, and the solution the town provided was to engage in this high-risk alternative. I would guess the fact that we are even discussing this would make our case less strong. Further caution from the town attorney said that a well installed close to a plume may cause the plume to spread. We just voted on Article 3 to appropriate $97,000 for this problem. This farm has a robust tenant with lots of children. It is not your typical farm. I don't support this motion. Thanks.
Okay, does the proponent under this article wish to speak to that? Okay. Sorry, first we'll have town council.
Good morning, Greg Corbo again, Town Council, through you, Madam Moderator. So I did give an opinion on the issue of the town's potential liability, and because this is in an area of environmental concern as defined by the Board of Health, as being in close proximity to an area with perchlorate contamination, there is a certain level of risk that the town takes on by allowing the installation of a well in this area. I have further opined that that risk can be mitigated by the select board entering into an agreement with the operator, whereby the operator, in exchange for being allowed to put in the well, would be required to indemnify and release the town from liability, which means that essentially the operator of the farm assumes the risk of any potential contamination that arises out of the operation of the well. And that is something that would be subject to an agreement between the select board and the operator. So even if there is an appropriation of these funds here, that's just step one. Then it goes over to the select board to negotiate an agreement with the operator. And if the select board cannot reach an agreement that the select board believes is in the best interest of the town, it is not required to spend the money for that purpose.
Thank you. At the center microphone.
Tammy Clark, 3 Pioneer Way. I read a little bit up on this from what you guys had was online, and I guess someone could speak to this. It seems like it's a private farm, I guess if you want to call it, but it's private. And I guess I'm wondering why they would ask public money. I mean, it's a private business where people pay to go there and use their services, which is great. I mean, I'd like to renovate my house too, and I'll donate a little for bread every week. So I guess I don't understand why this is a town issue and what we're getting in return as a town. If it's a private farm, maybe I'm confused.
Can someone explain the private-public partnership of Meadowbrook Farms. Yep. He's right behind you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bob Waskevich, and I live at 120 Groton Road in Westford, Mass., and I own Meadowbrook Farm. 25 years ago, in a similar town meeting, similar to this, in Westford, our fellow citizens voted to purchase a portion of the Picking Gould Farm, some 64 acres, now known as Meadowbrook Farm. Myself, with Bob and Margaret Webb, purchased the remaining portion of the farm from the estate of Bernice Picking, some 24 acres to be exact, and leased most of the rest of the land, the 64 acres that the town owns, from the town. The town, all of us, by special town meeting and a special town election, overwhelmingly voted to support saving the 1740 farm. We, the citizens of Westford, not only prevented 53 houses from being built, we also saved the last working farm in Westford. Over the last 25 years, we have successfully restored the farm, and we and all of you were awarded the Massachusetts Historical Renovation of the Year for returning all of the buildings, the farmhouse, the cider house, the post and beam horse barn, and even the one-room schoolhouse to its former glory. Bob and Margaret Webb and myself also voluntarily put a permanent conservation restriction on the farm, and it is truly a forever farm, never to have anything else on it. 25 years ago, we were at a crossroads, and we, the citizens of Westford, came together to save the farm, and save the farm we did. Now, we are at another crossroads in the farm history. We want to use some of the land on the farm to grow food and give it to people in need. The farm will not take $1 in revenues from this. Our goal is to find operators that will come to the farm for us to raise approximately 100,000 pounds of vegetables and give them away. Everyone's talking about food insecurity. We have an opportunity to act. Today, I ask you to support the goal of our growing 100,000 pounds of vegetables and giving them to those in need. As a matter of note, the farm and myself, once again, will not take in $1. In order to grow crops, we need water, and that is why we are asking for your support today. 20 years ago, we had a well at the farm, 20 gallons per minute. That well, some 1/3 of a mile away on farm property, was destroyed and remains offline today. Had we had that well working, we would not be coming to any of you for a new well now. We also have a well 300 feet from the proposed site, and that well is in the Massachusetts contingency plan. That well has been monitored quarterly for 15 years voluntarily by the town of Westford. We do not have a perchlorate problem there. We don't know, in drilling this new well, if we will even have a perchlorate problem at the new well. So 15 years of clean reports received as recently as yesterday from the water department versus a well that we want to dig. Don't know the results, but we will gladly subject ourselves naturally to the permitting process, going to the Board of Health, and abiding by anything they come up with. The town offered reverse osmosis systems to anybody who lost their well 15, 20 years ago. Some people took that, some people took town water. We brought town water in at our own expense to the farmhouse. We took our own well offline, even though it was clean, because Bob Webb and Margaret and myself determined that there was a person in the house who wanted to have a child, and we wanted to make an exceptionally good decision in favor of that person.
Bob,
Yep, we're at the 2 minutes.
I think you've answered the question.
So the long and the short of it is, thank you for listening. We look forward to your support. It's about giving food away. It's not about the farm making $1. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. To my right.
Well, I want to thank the prior speakers for letting us know about the concerns over the perchlorate plume. I'm also very concerned that this has been going on for years, and thinking that we might be indemnified. But you're doing great work, I get it. But to think that we're going to ask someone to indemnify us when Maine Drilling and Blasting walked away with only paying us $1 million? Come on, we're going to own this. So I guess I would like to know from Madam Moderator if you could ask our experts, would dropping a well here complicate our perchlorate issues? If it does,
Sure. Okay,
if
I
it's
got the
potentially
question.
going to, then I don't think we should be doing it.
Can we get an answer to that question of what effect drilling a well here might have on our perchlorate situation? Okay. Greg has become a water expert.
I don't.
Thank you through you, Madam Moderator. So the town manager and I did have a conversation with the town's perchlorate consultant as to this specific question. You know, what is the likelihood that drilling a well in this location may exacerbate or move the plume of contamination in another direction? And unfortunately, the answer that we were given was they don't know. According to the environmental experts, this is an area where the water is withdrawn from bedrock fissures, which means that they travel in many different directions. And so from a scientific perspective, they don't know exactly where the water is coming from and what the impact of a new well would be. Based on the data that they have now, you know, they think that the risk might be low, but they couldn't give us any guarantees that the risk would be nothing or in fact low at all. So unfortunately, we were not given a conclusive answer to that question, and therefore we cannot give you a conclusive answer either.
Thank you. Dennis?
Dennis Galvin, 90 Concord Road. I was on the Finance Committee when this was examined, and subsequent to the vote that we took, I have had conversation with Mr. Waskiewicz. Obviously, his project is very admirable and necessary, and he made certain very explicit stipulations. For example, he is willing to sign a hold harmless agreement. The issue really doesn't become an issue unless the water actually turns out to be contaminated. And the third thing is that he's willing to be guided and have oversight by the town, whether it's the planning board or the Board of Selectmen, with regard to any change in use. For example, use of drinking, transitioning from simply irrigation to drinking water. I think the only issue that's left, and I think the only issue that the town meeting has to decide, is the willingness, is the liability issue. And I think and whether or not he should sign the agreement and have the stipulations before the funding is actually authorized. So I'll leave that up for the town meeting to decide.
Thank you, Dennis. I think the middle, yes.
Hi, Frank Heitkamp, 15 Patton Road. You know, when we bought this land as a town, we made a commitment to open space and to farmlands. And you need to have water to farm. Where we're being asked to put this well is outside of any restricted area. And to the point of understanding that there's a concern that has to be taken seriously. I think the remediation of the risk is as simple as doing the well testing. As Bob just suggested that he's been doing for the number of years on the other well in the farm, we'd be doing the same thing for this well. So that really mitigates the risk in terms of being able to say, are we going to have a problem or not? So if we want to grow the food on farmland that we bought, and that was explained to us, that was one of the reasons that as a town we were going to buy this property, to allow for farming. If you're not going to put water on the land, then you might as well sell it and make some money and buy condos or something. We need water on that land, and I think there's a risk mitigation plan in place here, and Bob's willingness to be guided is just the way that we're going to mitigate this risk. Thank you.
I'm going to take the two people that were standing at the microphone already, and that'll be it for this.
Emily Taylor, 9 Texas Road. I would like to affirm what the previous speaker just said. I have a question and a comment. Comment is, thank you, Bob Waskiewicz, for your continued commitment to this parcel and for the future of the parcel by being willing to sign the liability issue. My question is there technology for filtering out perchlorate at this point, or is that a development so that at some point, even if perchlorate does show up there, it can be removed from the agricultural water?
I'm not going to take any more folks at the microphone if you're standing there. Does somebody have the short answer to whether or not you can filter out perchlorate? Yes, you can? That's the short answer.
I rest my case. Thank
Okay.
you.
Sir, you'll be the last.
Thank you. Devin Cody, 75 Groton Road. I was just wondering if there is determined to be a contamination at the well, and if it is determined to be not feasible to remediate that well or to filter out whatever contaminants might be in the water, if there is a backup plan or some sort of redundancy that we would be using to grow the food at that farm.
So you mean if they can't drop a well there because of permitting issues having to do with perchlorate? Bob, that's a question for you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The contingency plan right now is to go to reverse osmosis, which is widely used across the country in industrial applications and in agriculture. It can work. The question is, how expensive is it?
A
Thank
follow-up
you.
question, if that's okay?
Sure.
If it is deemed cost prohibitive, what then?
We could stop the project altogether and not go forward with it. That is not something we want to do. 100,000 pounds of food to people in need is important. So we're going to look for every solution possible, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, we're going to call for the vote now. This is a simple majority vote. Let's try it first by voice vote. All in favor of these two projects at the Meadowbrook Farm being funded by CPA funds, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. It is a majority. I'm going to try and get through this last, the third motion under Article 8 before we adjourn for lunch. I know the Say Cheese food truck is out there just waiting for you guys. The third motion under Article 8 is for the appropriation of $1 million from community preservation funds for the planning, design, development, and construction of 35 units of senior residential affordable housing at 35 Town Farm Road, and to allow for the bonding and borrowing therefore. Is there a second to that motion? Anyone have any questions or comments? Okay, we'll call for the vote then. Because this requires borrowing, it requires a 2/3 majority. So we'll use our clickers again, but you're getting really good at that. Ready, Mike? So if you want to vote yes, press the green button. If you want to vote no, press the red button. You could start now. Voting is open. All right, everybody all set with the voting? Voting is now closed. The article passes by 2/3 majority. The vote is 270 to 46. Okay, we are going to break for lunch now. There's a really great food truck outside. I hope you'll all give it a try. They have excellent food. I've tried it myself already. And we'll be back here at 1:30, so please be back at 1:30. Remember to hand in your clickers before you leave. You'll have to pick them up back up when you come back. Don't leave the room with your clickers. Make sure you're handing them all in before you leave. If you're leaving the gym, then